Okay, so I'm here to talk about creating joyful living. And from being a part of today, that's got to be a challenge, I think, for each of you and those that are with you. I want to tell you a little bit about my story to get started. So this was my beginning, right? So I'm right out of high school, on the picture on the right. I've gone to college, and life is good. Any of you have kids, grandkids that are at this age, they know everything? Yes, that was me. And look how good the hair was. It wasn't as big as it was a few years earlier, but it was good hair. So life was really good, right? And I knew that I was in control and things were going to go my way because I had a plan. And I put my plan in place, and I worked on this. And I didn't expect life to be perfect by any means, but I knew if I worked hard, I could accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. How many of you feel like that you've had kind of a roadblock or a railroad, something happened that's diverted that plan in your life? Yeah, I can relate. I do not have scleroderma, but I have my own chronic challenges. And so reality kicked in. And reality kicked in. I was married. I have a phenomenal husband. We had, at the time, 2 young children when reality really started to kick in. Earlier, I had been diagnosed with hormone imbalances, and the first time I met with the doctor, they said, "You'll probably have a hard time having children." Well, he was right, but I did have children, so I overcame that, right? Because I was in control, and I was making life happen. So then other things started happening in my body that I couldn't explain, nor could the doctors that were working with me. And I got which I think many of you have been through, I don't know, go to this doctor. I don't know, go to this doctor. Well, I think you have autoimmune disease. Oh, lupus? Well, we checked. No lupus. So we really don't know. You just have hormone imbalance, and there's nothing we can do for you. Okay, so this was my late 20s, and that was what the doctor wanted me to leave his office with is, congratulations, this is your life. All those things that are bugging you on a daily basis, or the challenges you're having, here you go, have a good life. It wasn't the most uplifting bedside talk I'd had. And so I went about my life, and being the stubborn person I was, I wanted it to be different. And so I did things and researched and this was before the internet was even that prolific, so research, let's take that back a few years, as far as much as my knowledge could allow me. But the reality was I was living with hormone imbalance, and nobody wanted to help or do anything about it. And so I was living with it. And part of what the challenge was, it impacted my relationships. It impacted my health. I became an emotional eater, and that's part of my practice. And so that impacted things even further. I suffered with depression, mostly mild depression, but it got into moderate depression at times. And I want to give a call out to caregivers, how important you are to, and the support systems, to the individuals in this room that are suffering from the disease. Because without the support of my husband and my close friends and family, I would not be where I am today. And they suffered through the process. My husband, I have told him, I don't know why you didn't leave. Because there's times I wouldn't have lived with me. I didn't like living with me. Why? Because there's no answer. So I was angry. I was angry that my life wasn't being what I wanted it to be. I had no control. So that's amazing. So this image is probably 30 years old. Remote controls have not changed a lot with all technology. I found this and I was like, I'm using this because I know how old it is and I love it. But the interesting, who loves the remote control in their house? Yeah, who gets up and changes their TV manually anymore? Yeah, I gotta look like, are you insane? Is there a TV you can do that with? Can't I use my phone for that, right? So we lost the remote literally 3 days ago in my house, and it's my husband, my daughter, and I frantically looking and asking my mother, where is the remote? Like, it was a world crisis in our home because we had lost the remote, because we couldn't control the TV. But the question I want to raise with this, and the interesting thing is then we did find the remote, and my husband didn't even stay to watch what my daughter and I were watching. But it was that having that remote, and we needed to have it because it was the control. So do we feel in control when we have that remote? Do we feel in control of the TV? How many of you think you're in control of the TV when you have the remote control? Right? I've heard spouses fight over remote controls. I find that interesting. My husband just lets me have it. He's smart. But, so when we are in control, how much control do we really have with that remote? Because you know what? What's on the other end? What's on the TV? Are you in control of what's on the TV?
You can turn it off.
You can turn it off, right? But I can get up and do that. That's not a problem because I'm not switching. How many of us have said, I have all these channels to watch. You know, I grew up with 5. My kids look at me like I'm insane. Like, you a pioneer? You have 5 TV channels? Yeah. Was it black and white? No, it was in color. But, so we don't control, but we look at and we think, how many times have we watched the TV and gotten through and sat there and gone, there's nothing to watch? How can we have all these channels, there's nothing to watch? Because it is an illusion of control with that remote control. We are not in control. Whoever is producing from the other end is in control. What we do with the remote is what we are in control of. This is the same with our lives. We are not in control of so much with our lives. But what we do with our own internal remote control has a huge impact on what our experience is going to be. So my new reality was this of frustration, anger. I had tried, this is, you know, it's interesting because saying that I went to a naturopath these days, everyone's like, yeah. No, this was, I'm not going to tell you how old I am. Anyway, I'm not going to age myself. However, I went to a naturopath. There was good feedback coming. I was making progress. I was really excited. And then I had an unexpected pregnancy that threw things a little skiwampus. In a lot of ways, she's thrown things a little skiwampus, but I really love her. And so things progressed. And then we were blessed at the time to be living in Oregon. And so that provided that kind of doctor for me. But then we moved to a remote area of California. And yes, there are remote areas of California. There were more crops where we lived than there were people. My husband's commute, if he had a tractor in the way, then it was a slow commute. It was a little bit isolated for me. Glad to be back to civilization in Denver. But as we were living there, I went into a doctor's office, and this is what he said to me. He said, I had gone to him, and I'm like, things aren't working, I need help. And he said to me, well, you know, he probably didn't say you know, but that's how it was communicated in my mind. If you lost the extra weight and reduced your stress, you'd probably be fine. And I was so upset because I already worked twice as hard as I knew I was overweight. I knew my BMI was too high. I knew that. I'm a woman. I looked in the mirror. I put my pants and my shirt on every day. Did he think I didn't know that? Right? But the reality was I was working twice as hard, I felt like, than everyone else to even be in the position I was in. I exercised. I watched what I ate. I made dietary changes before Whole Foods were popular to more Whole Foods because I instinctively knew that I needed to do the best I could for my body, and that's what I was doing. And I really wanted to do is find out. It was a small town, and actually I knew his wife, so I could have probably found out where the doctor lived. And I wanted to drop off my 4 kids on his doorstep and said, I took one, I relieved my stress. Here you go. But then I wouldn't have my 4 kids, so I would be sad. But I decided to find a different doctor. And I found a different doctor that specialized more in what I was challenged with. And when I went to this doctor, he came back and he said, yes, I'm confirming. We know you have the name might have changed by now, polycystic ovarian syndrome. It comes with da-da-da-da. We are confirming da-da-da-da. Yes. And I said, so is it true? I just need to lose more weight and reduce my stress. And how am I supposed to do that? And he looked at me and he said, do you realize that most of my patients that come in here are obesely overweight? And so if they're dealing with moderate depression, they're very happy, but most are dealing with severe. What you are doing is working. This became my new reality. Because there were things I had taken all this time, and it was years. I had lost the opportunity to appreciate so much of what was happening in my life because I was so mad about what I couldn't control. And I shifted and had to create a new reality. And I will say to this day, I missed things with my children growing up in the fact that I made sure that they had great experiences. I didn't have that experience of experiencing with them because I was partially holding myself back and partially because of the depression that until a few years ago I didn't even know I was experiencing. Because my life shifted and I started recognizing that life could be different. And so my new reality at that moment of walking out of his office was one of acceptance. And I want to read for you. I'm excited about my new book. It works mostly with emotional eating, but I want to read part of the opening for that in chapter 1. It says, "It has taken you a lifetime to get where you are today. Think about this. There are many experiences and emotions that have contributed to who you are emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Sometimes it seems that if we could simply wipe out the unpleasant, it would create a storybook life." Because isn't that what we're taught every day in the media and the movies? This storybook life, right? And as girls, we all grew up wanting to be princesses. Storybook life, fairy tale ending. However, often the best of times are connected to the worst. And instead of belittling your physique, and I would say belittling your life, today is the day to start accepting where you are by acknowledging that you have come through the best and the worst. Through this process, you have likely gained empathy, courage, patience, and I had someone share with me today a spiritual relationship with God. That's what she's gained, and she's someone in this room. Because without that, she said, without what I've gone through, I wouldn't be in my same spiritual place. We are reframing our reality today about what you have gained. Because how many of you, through life, think about your best memories, your fondest memories? I'm guessing some are large events. Think about those that touch really dear to your soul, interacting with people. I'm guessing a lot of those are not large events. They're small things that can happen daily. They're small things that no matter what we're suffering from, life cannot take away from us if we don't allow it. And I gotta find my clicker. All right, like the clicker. It's like my control, right? So, people who believe they cause good things tend to like themselves better than people who believe good things come from other people or circumstances. I've been living in a world that I thought good things came from outside, and I didn't have a role in my own life. The shift came when I started accepting my own role in good things happening in my life. And so I have to give a shout out for Janice Earhart. She does a village called Izor Village, and I love them. And they're characters that talk about hard topics. And so this character is telling us, what is your realm of acceptance? How powerful will you allow yourself to be? And this really comes to a question of who is defining you? Are you defining you, or is your disease defining you? And we have a choice in that because we're still us. So our secret number one to really creating this joyful living is gratitude. And I'm guessing we've heard this. Anybody heard this before, right? So everyone's got their gratitude journals they keep every day, right? Well, I don't. And to say that to you would just be stressful to me because it's just one more thing I have to do. And when you're dealing with a chronic disease or helping someone go through that, one more thing to do can be the thing that pushes us over the edge. So we're going to talk about a real way Dr. Brian Sexton came up with 3 good things. And 3 good things is a real way to make gratitude work for you and help reframe your brain to go to those things that are good in life when that fight or flight mechanism turns on, to go to the good. So this is 3 good things. This is how we do it, and then we're going to talk about it. So 3 good things you do within 2 hours of going to sleep. So how many of you review your day within 2 hours of going to sleep?
Oh, 2 hours or less?
Yeah, 2 hours or less. Review your day, and then if you're women, a lot of times beat yourself up because you didn't finish your list that was this long, that no human being in the world could finish, but I'm going to beat myself up before I go to bed. Or how many of us start planning our next day right before we go to bed? And that doesn't cause any stress or worry, I'm sure, right? That we're training our brain, and this actually helps with sleeping too, which we learned earlier is very important. So you're going to do it within 2 hours of going to sleep, and you're going to do it as close to going to bed as possible. Okay? With it, you need to write it down. Our brain, when we write something down, and you can type it, it records it differently, it processes it differently. It's a whole different discussion. We can talk about it later if you have questions. But trust me, you need to write it down. Number 3, you need to write down what your role in this good thing happening was. Okay, and this can be a challenge for you, especially the first few times. And so we'll talk about it a little bit more. And then the last is identifying the emotion that goes with this good thing that's happened. And I really discourage you from using happy and glad. Okay? Because I say there are 5 emotions that we overuse: happy, glad, sad, mad, and fine, right? I'd like to erase them because we've used them as this coding where we're really not identifying emotions as much anymore. And so we're robbing ourselves of having true experiences. So let's talk about this. My first experience doing 3 good things, this is what I did. One day, I'm a mom, and I have children currently from ages, I have 16, 14, and 2 9-year-olds. So where are my afternoons spent? In the car. And who loves driving in traffic all afternoon? Yeah, not stressful, doesn't aggravate me. Let's see, it's food time, it's that afternoon right before dinner, so if we haven't had a good snack, it can be a real joy, especially depending on who else is on the road, right? So I'm on the road, and I notice we've lived on the coastal region of the western United States for 8 years prior to moving to Colorado. And something that's really different, and I didn't know this, I grew up in the mountain ranges of Utah, but something that's really different is the weather, how it rains here, is not the same kind of rain you get in Oregon, and it's not the same kind of rain you get in California. Who knew? Not me. The other thing that's different are the cloud formations. Colorado has some of the most phenomenal cloud formations in the West, and I can say that. I've lived in most of the West. And it's amazing. And the different types of formations you can have in the sky at once are remarkable. So one afternoon, I'm a couple days into my experience with 3 good things, and I'm driving, and I notice, we've been here 2 years at this point. I notice the clouds. And I'm like, those are phenomenal. And I'm pointing it out to my kids. Hey, look at the clouds. Look how phenomenal those clouds are, right? So that night, I recognized this as one of my good things. So what would be my role, which I gave it away, what would be my role in the good thing? I did not create the clouds.
But you saw them.
I saw them. I was aware. I took a moment. Can I tell you, who has driven home before and you get in the garage and you go, I don't even know how it got here? I have had that experience because we are so unaware. So the fact that I was present and aware and noticed helped me create this moment. So I was involved. I hadn't physically done anything. I hadn't made the clouds, painted them, no. But I was aware. What was my emotion? My emotion was awe. Joy could be another one. Gratitude. Inspiration. These are the emotions we want to go to really recognize and start recognizing how good things are around us. So we're going to take a 2-minute moment, and you are going to think of a good thing. You're going to couple with someone, and I would encourage you not to do it with someone you came with. That will be hard. You have to talk to someone else. I know. But you each get 1 minute. I want you to share a good thing that's happened to you today. I want you to share your role and your emotion. And if you don't get through all 3, that's okay, but let's start the process. And then we're going to go through how often you need to do this and the impact that they found through studies that it will have on your life. So I'm giving you 2 minutes. Go. So what Dr. Brian Sexton found was he works with the medical department at Duke University, and they do this with the medical practitioners because their jobs are listed as one of the most stressful. And it really was an impact on stress in life. Because how does stress impact having a chronic disease like scleroderma? Is it a good thing to have stress? Oh no, it's not a stressful situation at all though, right? Don't you love that? That was one of my favorite. You have a stressful situation, but please don't have stress. And no one to tell me how. What this does is it can reduce your stress. So if you do this, and it's a time management with this, you do it every night for 7 days in a row. The lasting impact is for 6 months. You do it every night for 2 weeks, the lasting impact is a year because you're training your brain. I would not suggest that you just quit doing it, but you don't have to physically write it after that point. You'll become aware. And an example would be going off my cloud-based awareness. I drove into Target's parking lot one day and I looked up, which was key. We actually have to look up. I looked up and saw a beautiful, what was the plane we saw yesterday?
B-17.
A B-17, I saw it again today as I was driving here. So fun, right? Well, our Target, there's a hawk that visits one of the telephone poles frequently. And I know that now because I looked up and I got to take a minute instead of rushing out of my car and watch this hawk perch and then leave one day. And so I know and I look for this hawk now. It's a good thing. I love it. So what also happens, it improves our sleep. And it has equal effect as Prozac for people suffering with mild depression. 3 good things. Showing gratitude is a great thing. But it's recognizing our role in our lives, and it kind of gives us back that remote control a little bit. That we start having we feel like we have some control. If you have questions about this, I do a teleseminar called Food for Thought, where we work with emotional eating, and recently the last one was on stress. And so you will find on my Facebook page for the last 9 nights a good thing that's happened in my life because I committed to redo this for 14 days, and some of them are kind of funny. But so if you're having questions though or struggling, it's a good way to see physically, okay, this is a good thing and this is the emotion. All right, we spend more time imagining future pleasure than experiencing joy in the present. In our effort to improve the present moment, we fail to appreciate how good it really is. Dr. Seuss has a quote that talks about how sometimes we have to be beyond the moment to see what it was about or how to appreciate it. But do we want to live with experiencing that we're not appreciating the moments? One of my favorites is, who's planned for a big vacation before? Yeah, and then people get there. Anybody ever been on vacation with somebody that let's say it's a week-long vacation, 3 days in, they're planning what they have to do when they get home? It happens. And we laugh, but it's very real because we're always planning for the future. But you know what? Let's start living today. Because today is the only day we really are guaranteed we have, any of us. Okay? So staying still can move us forward. In our society, how true of a belief is this? Not enough. Because we deem our success every single day by, I am a list person, and thank heaven I married a husband that has taught me to control somewhat of my addictive list-making behaviors. Because what happens is, I wanted to check everything off. It was all my worth and guarantee was on that movement. But now we need to stay still. And so secret number 2 is becoming present. Okay, and I have 2 tools that we're going to go over for becoming present, being here and now. And the first is to create a pause. And this happens if things are hectic. We need to create a pause. We need to reset. We need to throw the switch and do the reset button, okay? So that's what these tools are for. And they can happen when you're making, I'm guessing you don't have to make very many medical stressful decisions, right? Or very frequently. It can be very weighing, and we get very emotionally engaged. So we want to create a pause in that moment so that we're using some reason with the emotion when we're making those decisions. We want to create a pause when we're highly emotional and need to engage with a family member. We want to create a pause when we're just feeling completely stressed out. So one way is to literally take a timeout. This is not a run and hide escape route. That is not healthy. Avoidance is not going to help. It is going to make problems worse. I am not advocating that. This is a very short timeout. And with this timeout, we want to do something that gets us out of that emotional component of our brain and into the reason part of our brain. I want you to think of buying a house. Anyone in here ever bought a home? Oh, I think I just turned things off. You're there. Luckily. Anyone ever bought a home? So did you base that decision completely on reason?
Partially.
I don't think you'd have to look at a house if you based it on reason, right? You could just look at the paper the realtor provided and go, oh, this one meets A, B, and C. Look at the floor plan, the schematics right here. It meets exactly our needs. Great, we'll take this one. My realtor in moving here wishes so much that that had been the case. Bless her, literally. Because we saw, I don't know, probably close to 100 homes in 6 cities and in 4 different trips over 7 months. Oh, yes. Aren't you glad you weren't my realtor? Anyone that is.
Yeah.
But because it's also an emotionally driven decision. However, what if I just bought a home based on emotion? It's so pretty, it's so cute, I love it. And the inspection comes back and there are a lot of problems. I'm like, I don't care, I love it. Well, no, we're not going to do that. So we want to get a balance between this. And when we're in a heightened emotional state, we don't have that balance. So this is how we get there, is by creating this pause. So, taking a time out, a reason game. Any of you like to do word puzzles, word finds, Sudoku, crossword puzzles, any of those types of things? Okay, that's a good time out because you have to think and you have to focus on what you're doing. Okay? That is a great way to get out of that emotional part, but it's not an escape route. So that means you get to do it for a couple minutes, up to 5. Not for the next 30, so you can avoid what you don't want to face. Another way is by using a ball, a bouncy ball, a tennis ball. It's great. Bounce it up and down and catch it. Bounce it against a wall and catch it. What's amazing is if you play toss with someone back and forth, it works even faster. Also, if you're having a heated argument with someone, try to do it throwing a ball back and forth. Can't. It brings the emotion way down. And I know, I've used it with my children. My husband and I haven't gone to that point yet. I don't know, with me we might. But it's important to take a time out. So find something. Another one that works really well, and I talk to individuals about doing this in meetings, count backwards. If you're really good at counting backwards, then like one gentleman told me one day, he's like, that's great, I use that. I count backwards by prime numbers. I'm like, I can't even count forward by prime numbers. I guess I could start trying to count forward. It depends on my mood, but I usually count backwards by 3s and start by an odd number. And you don't have to go a certain amount. You can literally start becoming aware and feel that you're less tension in your body, that you increase that reason in your brain. So get to that point where there's more of a balance by taking a time out. And if that means that you have to lock yourself in the bathroom because you locked your door and then have to lock yourself in the bathroom to get a double structure away from the chaos that's going on in life, fine. Another great one is take a walk up and down your street. Or do some simple form of exercise that you have to, but that you need to focus in that moment. You can't just ruminate. You can't just take the walk and think about all your problems. Okay, you've got to focus on what's going on around you. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. You need to breathe. Crazy concept, right? We all need to breathe. But we as a society generally breathe in our chest. We need to increase our ability to breathe into our gut. It will help you in so many ways. So we're going to practice. Everybody stand up. Okay, so first of all, just put your hand on your stomach and take a deep breath in. times our shoulders go up, that means we're still in our chest. It's really about getting it into our diaphragm. And this is not natural for most of us, and it takes practice. So don't feel bad if you're not doing it right. So we're going to do what's called bunny breath. Okay? We're going to look at, these are yoga. They are from a yoga training for children. That's why I can help with them, because I'm not a yoga expert. And with it, if you're not used to a lot of breathing exercises, blow out to fully exhale through your mouth. If you are used to yoga, you can exhale through your nose. That's more traditional. So bunny breath. We're going to breathe in. It's that simple. It's a breathing exercise. We're going to do one more. And if, depending on flexibility, this is painful with doing arms, do what you can. But focus again on your breath and how your body feels. So this one is called volcano. And on the in-breath, you're going to bring your arms in. And then exhale. Okay, this is great in relieving tension. It's also, we can really feel, it's to train us to really start focusing on where are we tense in our body? What is our body feeling? These aren't mindless as we're doing this breathing. We want to become aware so that we can start calming down. So to transition into our next area, our next tool, if you can balance, or if you can't, hold on to something, but I want you to bring your foot up. It can be at your ankle or up to your knee, okay? And then if you can, stretch out, and we're going to do tree. So when I am stressed, I cannot balance with this. When you're having a stressful moment, you can't balance. Now, if you want to trick yourself and be careful because you will fall, you would close your eyes. Because what happens is, and how come? How come we can't? You can go ahead and sit down. How come the balancing becomes almost impossible when we close our eyes?
Because your eyes are part of your balance.
Well, we start ruminating, we start wandering our mind, and we're not present. So, we need to accept, just be, you are enough. And you includes everything about you. So, with attention training, to become present, what can we do? You need to give yourself permission to be. You need to give yourself permission to be angry. That doesn't mean that you dwell on it, but you can be angry that things haven't worked exactly how you wanted, or that you just got rotten news from the doctor. You need to give yourself permission to be happy or to have joy. You know, I found myself, as I had multiple friends and family around me going through divorces or horrible situations within their marriage, not giving myself permission to be happy in my own and to express that. Because I felt guilty somehow that my marriage was good and theirs wasn't. So as you have good days, give yourself permission to be happy. It's not hurting anyone around you that's not having a good day, or that think they didn't get the good news you got. It's not a competition. So give yourself permission to be whatever emotion you are feeling. Don't tell yourself you can't feel that. Give yourself permission to be that emotion. Be physically attached. This is through hugs, through being touch, sense. The cushion is soft. This chair is hard. Find the physical attachment to your environment, but also to people around you. A 10-second hug is what is required to have the most effect for a hug. 10 seconds, they found. I wish I'd known that a long time ago. Use your senses. So that idea that we drive home and we have no clue how we got there, or things start getting heated or frustrated, take a breath, smell. What does the room smell like right now? What is the temperature? Warm. But it may be cool. Use all 5 of your senses and become engaged to bring you to that present moment. Now you're ready to continue and to work through your life. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. Because we do have the power to steer ourselves. But it takes courage though. It truly takes courage to be happy. And it also takes a plan. The name of this was not Joyful Living. It was Creating Joyful Living. There is a difference. I do not believe joyful living just happens. I guess there are those few people in life that just came were born, and guess what? They are automatically happy and the most positive people that have ever lived, and life is smooth. They're the everybody's. How many of you know that everybody? Yeah, not me. So I create a plan to make the happiness happen. But you need to make it your journey. And I was so impressed today because you've been given a lot of tools to make it your journey. No one in this room is facing exactly the same challenges. But if you go home today and try and incorporate everything that was taught to you, or you felt was good, how successful are you going to be? Not very. It's going to be overwhelming come tomorrow. But make it yours. Decide what works best for you. And it may not be the same as the person next to you. If you have 10 things that you really took out of today, take those 10 things, write them down, and prioritize them. Where are you going to start? But my challenge to you is only to start with 1, maybe 2. Okay? And do them in different areas. Because you want to set yourself up for success. Then when that is accomplished, move on to the next item. So if you've decided, I'm going to do 3 good things, I'm going to try an acupuncturist, and I'm going to meet with this doctor, and I'm going to, the list could go on. Decide what you're going to do today. And set yourself up for success with that. Plan for imperfections. How many of you are perfect? Right? Totally, yes. And how many of your lives are going to be perfect? Life is going to throw you curveballs. So if you have the set plan like I did, and the curveball comes, it's going to be a lot harder. But when we know that we can control our limited control in our environment from within, and that we're not perfect and accept that for the onset, I'm going to mess up. And when I do, I'm not going to judge myself. I'm going to use what I call the curiosity factor. And I'm simply going to observe what happened at that moment, how come it happened, like a scientist, and go, interesting. What should I learn from that? Practice. So with this, if you decide that using a bouncing ball is going to be a great way for you to get out of the emotional part of your brain and into the front part, or using a mantra, we didn't even talk about that. If I decide that's what I'm going to do, and I get to a moment that things are really not good, I'm leaving the doctor's office, or I just had a discussion with someone and things are not good, am I automatically going to use that skill? Is my brain going to go there? No, because my brain doesn't even know it's supposed to go there. I didn't teach it to go there. This is training. And this is why, as a life coach, it's about coaching and what you're doing. Putting the plan together and training your brain to get to the part you want it to go to. You have to practice the skills that you're going to utilize in those stressful moments. And I will give you a real example with bunny breath. I decided with my driving that bunny breath was my tool I was going to use. So I would get in my car and I would do bunny breath. Okay? And before I would get out of my car, I would do bunny breath. And I have to share the reason I do it before I get out of my car is because when I come home, garage door goes up, I drive in, and I have, Mom! In my window, every time. Please go in the house and wait until I come in. Next day, Mom! Go to the house. Next day, and it rotates between children. Not the 16-year-old, he doesn't even want to talk to me. There's no, he's like in the dungeon, hidden, and not the 14-year-olds, we just have fun together. The 9-year-olds, Mom! Every day. So I finally realized I had to be the one that changed because no matter what I said, they were so excited to tell me. I just needed a breath. So I would do my bunny breath. So one day I'm getting off I-25 on Arapahoe and I'm headed west. And there are 2 lanes there, and one is on a light and one is free, but you can't get over very fast. Well, I was using the free lane. I didn't need to get over quickly. The guy next to me was using the light. But guess what happened? He was apparently in a hurry and the light changed. So he didn't want to be in that lane anymore. So what did he do? And I went off the little into the dirt, which was fine. There was no one there. It wasn't another lane. Everyone was safe. But this was the interesting thing that happened. Because normally in the past, I drove in California for 5 years. I know how to drive. And I know how to be a driver. Right? And depending on who's in the cars, depends on what I say when someone does this to me. But as I drive off, and I start going, What? This was about 4 months after I had started Bunny Breath, this practice, but it was real. And for someone like me who doesn't necessarily believe in all of this to start with, I have to live it. I have to touch the hot stove. Yes. So it was real, and it really happened, and that's where I went. And so in that moment, was I angry? Was I upset? No, I was ecstatic. Awesome! This worked! And I wasn't mad. I wasn't stressed. The impact this has on our life every day, the impact this has on our health is so important. We need to reduce that stress so we can start appreciating the small moments so we don't miss those. They're not going away. You may have to shift your expectation about what you want your moments to be, but the moments aren't going away. I love this quote by Harriet Tubman. It says, "You have within you the strength and the passion and the courage to change the world." She did. But the interesting thing I find is so many of us are so willing to change the world these days, but we need to take the time to change our own world. So my challenge to each of you is not to change the world, but to change your world. Because that is where you need to start today. That is where your new reality will start. And that is where you will begin to appreciate and experience today. Thank you so much, and it was an honor to be with you.